Drink beer. Think beer. You're listening to Brew Bloods.
Alcohol is necessary for a man so that he can have a good opinion of himself. Undisturbed be the facts. That from 19th century columnist and humorist Finley Peter Dunn from Chicago. A noted beer city, Chicago is.
Yeah, it is.
It's my kind of town, Chicago.
You don't like beer, though, so I don't know if you like it.
That's true. I don't like beer.
Yeah,
I only like green.
It's weird you do a beer podcast, but
That's right.
You don't like beer.
I only like green-dyed water.
Right.
Just tap water, lake water, river water.
Yeah.
Just as long as it's dyed green, that's all I care about.
Like that lake water when you were living in Abilene and you used to stir it with a stick.
Sure. But that was more, that was more brown.
That was very sad, actually.
As long as it's
a very
not-
sad story.
It's either neon green or doo-doo pea green. I don't care as long as it's green.
Doo-doo pea green.
It's a shade of green. Yes.
Right.
Well, when doo-doo goes bad, it's kind of a green color. It can't take on a green hue.
It can be very bad at that point.
If you're having bad backside, it can go to the wrong color.
Right.
Or the right color, depending on your preference. So let's talk about the beer we're drinking today. We're drinking about an old standby.
It's a Two-Hearted Ale from Bell's, which is a fabulous brewery. They have several different beers that are great.
Right. New to the area. We just got them this past year.
Yeah, true. It's, probably about 4 or 5 months old?
Yeah, something
maybe?
like that. We did an episode about the Amarillo, or am I right, IPA that they developed just for Texas, which
was
pretty spare. But
but they have a lot of good stuff.
They do.
From their traditional lineup.
The Two-Hearted Ale being one of them. That's what we're drinking today.
Yep.
If you've never had the Two-Hearted, never had the chance. Some people in certain Facebook groups would tell you it's overrated and it's a drain pour, but it is definitely by far one of the best IPAs going.
They also say if it's like 1 month old, you should drain pour it, but that's not true.
That same group, yes.
It's good for like 6 months.
Yes.
Minimum.
Yeah, if you've never had it, I wholeheartedly recommend it. It is one of the gold standard beers of IPAs.
You two-heartedly recommend it?
I recommend it with 3 hearts. If I had a third heart. I've only got 2.
Even more than they do.
I've only got 2 hearts, but I will recommend it with a third that I will steal out of a cadaver that I will go loot from a morgue tonight. A freshly morgued corpse.
So we're cutting this episode from yet another cave because between Marcus's house and my house,
cave.
we're forced to go into the cave in the very tiny room somewhere in the back of the house. Yep. The wives really push us back there. So today we're in my office, which is a tiny, tiny room. It's like basically a jail cell, about like a 4x4, basically.
Yeah, you were. This was originally a crafting room, but we decided we're going to take it over and turn into a podcasting cave.
Yeah, so we have like sewer lines running through here.
Yeah.
We have it smells like ass, but we'll make the best of it.
But it's okay as long as it's dank and sweaty and there's lichen on the walls. And
as long as we can have beer in here, who cares?
It's
right.
fine. It is weird how as the husbands, if you have a hobby, you're relegated to one small corner of the house,
right?
While the wife gets free roam.
They get free reign of 98% of the house. You get 2% of the house.
Yeah, and then if
your hobby is relegated to that tiny 2% of the house.
But then if they also want to have a quilting bee or a crafting room. Or a wrapping room, or a gift wrapping room.
Other 2%
they'll take your cave away to make that.
Have nothing.
I know this feels like the start of a generic CBS sitcom with a fat guy with a pretty wife,
right?
But there's some truth there to that.
There is a little bit of truth there.
To that stereotype, because in both cases, yes, our hobbies have been relegated to the other room.
My fridge has been relegated to the hot garage,
That's true.
Then my podcast has been relegated to the tiniest room in the house.
Yes, the tiniest room.
So, yeah.
With sewer pipes and radioactive turtles.
We can also podcast on the deck, but it's still too hot for that.
Yes.
So maybe like October, we'll have more free reign outside. But for now, we're in a tiny room.
For August in Texas, this is rather nice. This is balmy.
Yes, it's very nice.
This is like a regular March day in Texas.
That is true, yes.
The last week has been nice, but that's enough weather talk. This is not the Delcas cast.
That is a separate shorty.
This is not the Precip cast.
Right.
So let's talk some news. Do you want to start with good news or bad news?
Why don't we start with good news?
Well, the good news is, if you're a fan of Founders and you're a fan of the Canadian Breakfast Stout...
Why would you not be? Because it's delicious.
Well, because maybe you've never had it like myself.
Okay, well, you should be, because it's delicious.
So I cannot be a fan because I've never had it. So
right.
If you are a fan or you think you might be a fan, the good news is, it looks like they're going to release the CBC as part of their barrel age series of which you might be familiar, the Project Pam... And no, I'm not saying Pan? Or Pan. The Lizard of Cause, the Sweet Repute, and the Bolt Cutter were all part of that series. It looks like they've gotten label approval for they've at least filed for the a label with the Alcohol and Tobacco and Tax Trade Bureau to release this as part of the Barrel Age series.
Well, I will say, living in Texas, we have only had limited availability for this.
Because the past years, it's only been on draft, and then in sparing years on top of that. Like, we didn't get it this past year.
Even on draft, like, it's not very widely available.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, there's a local place called Common Table, and they had it, and it was actually limited to, if you got a ticket, you were able to actually get it, and it was only like, I don't know, 30, 40 people maybe.
Right.
So it'd be nice if they opened this up a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to. I guess, I don't know. I guess they've got enough cave space to store their maple barrels and put
It's all about the caves.
It's all about the caves, yeah. So hopefully we'll see that sometime later this year. There's no dates on it yet.
It is better than the KBS.
It looks like they said that it probably will be packaged in 750 milliliter bottles, although every release so far in the Barrel Age series has also had a 12-ounce release, so they're not exactly sure what it's going to get yet.
Hey, that works.
But, hey, if you get it in bottles at all and it gets widely distributed, then I would say that is probably a great success.
Yeah, I would agree. Yes, definitely.
So, on to the bad news.
Uh-oh.
As things continue to get grim and dark for craft beer, it seems like. We've talked a lot about how millennials are destroying craft beer and millennials destroying everything, and maybe they're not destroying everything. Here's a bad sign. So, 47 Hops, which is a hop supplier out of the Yakima Valley, they have filed Chapter 11 because of the decline in hop demand.
Uh-oh.
Even in the wake of Anheuser-Busch limiting access to the South African hops, which was a big to-do a couple months ago.
I'm not sure I've ever heard of 47 Hops.
I haven't either, but they're quite notable in the brewing industry. We've only homebrewed a couple times, so I'm not surprised we don't know who they are.
Sure.
But, they filed Chapter 11. They're not going to go out of business. They're just reorganizing the debt. But basically what happened was they expected craft beer sales to be higher. Everybody did than they have been. And so they basically they signed bigger contracts than they should have. And as a result, brewers are late to pay because
they have to restructure.
They have to restructure. Brewers are late to pay, and they've bought too many hops from the farmers, and the farmers don't want to restructure their contracts.
Right.
And so they've had a lot of financial trouble. So they're going into Chapter 11 to restructure their debt, a greatly reduced demand on hops.
Sure.
And interestingly, the guy who owns 47 Hops, the last name's McKinnon, he actually wrote last year an article about why big brewery acquisitions are good for craft beer.
I'm actually kind of surprised, though, because I feel like most new beers, and, well, maybe not most, but a lot of new beers use a lot of hops.
Right.
So I'm kind of surprised they're having an issue. And it's not like craft beer, new breweries opening, like that's a slow process.
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know, I'm just kind of surprised they're having that problem.
Well, he said that his comment here was back in early July, he said, quote, from a hop market perspective, the financial stability, business acumen, and order that big brewers possess would be a welcome addition to the craft brewing industry. Some craft brewers are definitely more creative types than business people. He said, he said, blah, 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 blah. I lost my place. A growing number of brewers simply don't understand how the hops market works, and that their shoot-from-the-hip approach to ambitious contracts could wreak havoc on the industry. And he wrote that back in July, and or maybe even earlier than that, it's come true.
Okay.
So yeah,
fair enough.
So that's some bad news for the craft beer industry, and that's just one omen, I guess. Another one is that there's a craft beer glut, and we talked about this before. There's not enough shelf space. There's not enough tap space, and it appears that the United States, despite the fact that in Dallas they said, well, we're not anywhere near
United States.
We're not anywhere near the tipping point of having too many breweries.
Right.
We've been ringing that gong for a long time. That you better watch out.
Yes.
The glut alarm. For a while. And we're, noted predictors in this industry. Mm-hmm. Everybody comes to us for advice. Well, it's happening all across the United States. There's not enough shelf space to take on all these. They said there's a new brewery opening every 2 days in the United States.
Right.
And there's not enough tap space and shelf space to support that. And apparently a bunch of brewers, they get to 100,000 barrel production limit, and then they just hit a wall because they can't sell anymore.
Sure.
But then they've acquired so much debt that they can't make enough of a profit to support themselves.
Right.
And so they're seeing a lot of failures, acquisitions, things like that. No surprise.
Yeah, I've been concerned about that. It kind of sucks. It'd be nice if there was some way to consolidate these breweries and their top beers to kind of put those together, because there are a lot of different breweries that do different styles and different things really well.
Sure.
So it'd be nice if they could somehow be some kind of conglomerate that could handle that. But, yeah, I mean, I get independently operating breweries. You have certain negotiating power, and you work with your distributor, and there's only so much you can do. So, yeah it's kind of unfortunate.
Well, Ken Grossman, the founder of Sierra Nevada, said that Sierra Nevada's sales have fallen 7.5% this year.
I could see that.
As of mid-July.
Well, Sierra Nevada is also kind of suffering from you've been around a while.
Yeah,
so
old man syndrome.
Yeah.
But they're not the only ones. They're just saying that Benj Steinman, president of he's a president of a tracking firm, said that they used to say a rising tide lifts all boats, and it's definitely not that now. His firm estimates that shipment volumes declined for 16 of the top 36 craft style U.S. brewers last year.
Man,
yeah,
that's rough.
Retail store sales of craft beer styles fell $143 million to $2.3 billion in the first half of 2017, according to data from Nielsen. And even though craft beer shipments grew in the double digits, even as overall beer sales fail.
Yeah.
But craft beer demand has begun to decelerate as of 2016. So yeah, it's. I mean, we've thought for a while that there's a bit of a bubble coming, and it looks like that bubble is getting close to popping, or it's at least going to shrink. It's not going to be the good, happy, fun time bubbles that we've all come to drink and love. Yeah,
shrinking, I could see.
I don't know.
Bursting and getting rid of them, I don't know about that.
Well, it's but you also say that it's not like when the IT bubble happened in the early 2000s.
When all your pets.com stock went to crap.
Exactly. It's not like
you could have been a billionaire.
It's not like every IT firm collapsed that day, but a lot of people lost their jobs, me included.
True.
It's not unusual. A bubble doesn't mean
you have your whole 401k into pets.com.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I just bought all the pets.com puppets, sock puppets.
Right. You never thought they'd get rid of those.
No, never.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean everybody's going to lose their job. It just means there's going to be a great retraction in...
You and I were hanging out in the hot tub together like we were soulmates, and then all of a sudden the pets.com bursted, and they're like, all right, well, I got to get out of the hot tub.
I know. When we had
repossessed.
We had the sock puppets in the hot tub, and I just dropped them in the hot tub and walked away.
It all got repoed at the same time. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, you had to get rid of it.
It's going to... I mean, some breweries are going to go out of business, either bad business practices, bad beer, don't get enough notoriety, they're focusing in the wrong ways. Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why a brewery can go out of business.
Firewheel, Midnight Ninja, very good example.
Firewheel, Grapevine, retracted to be a brew pub only.
They're still around though.
They retracted from being a full scale brewery to a brew pub.
Yeah.
And even though I still see their cans on shelves, but I'm guessing that's just the last of the stock holding on.
No, maybe so. Yeah,
I think I still saw Lake Fire the other day at Total Wine, but
yeah, that would make sense. That was their biggest one. So
yeah, and Cobra Brewing we just found out on Facebook this past week that Cobra Brewing locally, we don't know exactly what happened there, if it was bad business practices or what. We know, at the very least, we know there was a disagreement between the owner and his father-in-law. I guess they're co-founders of the brewery. To be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with Cobra, but they're apparently either going to go out of business or reorganize as well.
Oh, okay.
With entirely new recipes. So,
sure.
If you like that danky IPA, too bad for you. He said, he said specifically, whatever on the shelves now is going to be the last you have of it. If they release that same beer, or at least under the same name, it'll be a different recipe.
So basically, you should get that, throw it in your freezer, and then sell it in like 5 years.
Exactly.
And everybody will say it's a cool retro IPA.
Along with those sock puppets.
Right.
So you mentioned earlier maybe some breweries should have one specific good beer that they should focus on.
Yeah.
So Tallgrass Brewing, they decided apparently that because of the craft beer glut, they decided to refocus. They're one of those breweries, like most craft breweries, that have one beer for every Roy G. Biv notch in the rainbow of the beer rainbow.
Maybe a couple for them, right?
Yeah, and they've decided to refocus on Berliner Weisses. So they are shifting away. They're going to cut down to just 12 beers. Wow. And they're actually switching away from traditional styles, including IPAs and porters, and they will put their entire push behind for new beers behind 2 tart fruit flavored Berliner Weisse beers.
That doesn't seem like focused enough, to be honest with you. Like, if you're talking about still keeping 12, that's quite a...
Well, it depends on what they are. I mean, they don't list every beer here.
Yeah.
What they are.
I'm just saying 12 seems like a lot.
They still, like they say, they're still going to keep the Buffalo Sweat and the 8-bit Pale Ale, but I guess they're kind of expecting, like a lot of Europe right now, that a lot of Europe is switching to low alcohol versions of beers, session beers.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they're betting the horse that session beers are going to become a much bigger player than they are right now.
Right.
So Tallgrass founder Jeff Gill said, quote, "It almost seems like it doesn't matter what you do with an IPA in today's craft beer climate. After 2 or 3 months, people are off to a new one, and what do? You rename it, reformulate it. It's not really what we like to do as a company." So that's apparently why they decided to focus on these. He thinks it will create less confusion for distributors and retailers when there are thousands of craft SKUs out there per store.
Right. If you're doing something more unique like that, though, I can kind of understand it. Like the, key lime pie and the raspberry jam and stuff. But some of the other ones are keeping, like the oatmeal stout. Like, there's a lot of people that have oatmeal stouts.
Well, yeah, but I guess if it's one of those beers that people always go to, it's so successful.
Right,
so,
sure.
In this case, they said that Berliner Weisses are now 50% of the company's product growth.
Oh, okay.
So they're apparently seeing great success with those style of beers. And he did admit, of course, it's in the honeymoon phase, but I was just looking at the numbers, and they're right there with it, and it's showing some sustainability.
Have you had anything from Tallgrass, just out of curiosity?
I've had the raspberry jam, and I think I've had the Buffalo Sweat, but it's been a while for both.
Okay.
I mean...
I've had the 8-bit, that's it.
So it's interesting. Okay. It's interesting. I mean, we talked about that before, that some breweries are going to have to refocus and retract, and there's that one brewery out of Colorado, and I can't remember the name, but they only do red ales. They do variations on red ales. And they're a tiny little brewery, but, they do pretty well for themselves.
Breckenridge? I don't know.
Yeah, Breckenridge.
Right.
Exactly.
No, I think that's good, though.
Yeah.
You get one beer that's doing really well, and just say, forget about it, let's just go with that.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
It's sad times, but look, there was a correction coming for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it looks like we're about to... We haven't hit it hard yet. I mean, this is just easing on the brakes. There may come a time when it just slams into the wall at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which would just be sad and means we have to shut down the show.
Probably.
Or we just rejoice in the death and destruction.
We may do that anyway. Who knows?
Or maybe we can acquire a brewery cheaply.
Right. Exactly.
And we can focus on cheap rice-based pilsners and lagers.
Yes.
Great success.
Great success.
We can invent the new PBR.
Yeah.
So, coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about 21 beers that changed America.
Completely changed it. You wouldn't know America without these beers.
That's right.
Hey guys, Josh here, just to let you know, to remind you, to get the word out, to put it in your brain, that no matter when you're listening to this podcast, Thursday is right around the corner. What's so significant about Thursday? Well, at Thursday at noon, you get to tune in and listen live to Liquid Lunch. Join myself and Catherine Contreras from She's Crafty Podcast as we join forces to bring you Texas's live midday craft beer show. It's the only one like it out there in the entire world. We're live. We take your calls at 713-678-0070. We have on the best guests in the craft beer world from the state of Texas and beyond, and it's just a fun time. You'll hear what you eating, what you drinking. We'll get the latest in news and craft beer goings-ons, promotions of all the latest happenings, and you can be a part of the show with us each and every Thursday at noon. LiquidLunchShow.com is where we're located. Also on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel, streaming live video and audio. Your choice. Come join the party. Kick off the weekend, Thursday at noon. LiquidLunchShow.com. That's Liquid Lunch. We'll see you there.
Hooray for beer!
A lot of beers have actually affected the United States, Mark. I don't know if you know about that.
I would say they affect us on a daily basis.
Yeah, probably so. And I'm very curious how many of these you've actually had, because this is a list from Thrillist.com, if you've heard of that. A somewhat legitimate site. I don't know if it's 100%.
I'm just going to go ahead and say they're fake news.
Yeah, they may be. But they put together a list, and this is dated 2015. So
a little out of date.
Not too old, but, not cutting edge, but, close enough. And they basically picked 21 beers that have changed America. And what change means, I don't know, but
the whole point is they're basically saying these are beers that changed beer.
Right.
So they didn't necessarily change America. They changed beer styles in America.
The title of the article is 21 beers that changed America.
I know,
That's
I get it. I understand. I mean, yes, they changed America a little bit in the small niche known as drinking. I guess that's not really a small niche, but
that's a very large.
I'm going to say within
area.
Craft beer or beer itself. It's a small way you can change America.
Right, sure. Yeah,
and
fair enough.
The first one they list on here, and this one I actually hardly agree with, and that's Anchor Steam, and which has been around. The brewery itself has been around since the late 1800s, and Fritz Maytag was
very late. 1896.
Yeah, Fritz Maytag in the late 60s came in, and it was his favorite beer in San Francisco. Well, he lived in San Francisco. It was his favorite beer, and he came in and took over the brewery. And because they were failing and they were about to shut down and had one employee, and he was going to he went over to see the brewery one last time and ended up with a 51% stake in the company.
Right.
And ended up, and by the way, he was the heir to the Maytag empire. So he ended up spending the next 45 years working at that brewery. Up until 2011, 10, something like that, and he decided to leave the business and felt
I have no basis for that. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, he decided to. He decided with the craft beer boom happening and starting to emerge, he decided it was time to bow out.
Right.
But noted now as they are now big beer because they sold out recently.
They did, yeah, which was kind of sad.
But how they changed it was, I guess, they really are the forerunners of the craft beer movement because they were one of the only breweries to survive the great consolidation of the 60s and 70s and 80s.
Yeah, that's very true.
And they held out, long enough, and they made it through that dark, depressing time.
Yeah, which was a very dark and depressing time. So from Anchor, I think I've maybe had a couple things from them. I can't really pinpoint it, but
I've had the Porter, the Christmas Ale.
Christmas Ale, yes, I've had that.
I'm pretty sure I had the Liberty Ale, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But again, they're not, old man syndrome. I don't really go to them ever.
I don't either.
They're craft beer of days gone by.
And the second one on the list I don't go to either, which is Blue Moon. First brewed in 1995. So it's been around a little bit longer than I expected. First brewed at Coors Field, America, ! They say in this article. Blue Moon represents many things. For some, it's the moment big beer went craft, or crafty, as some would put it. But for others, it represents an orange-kissed glimpse into the notion that beer could be different, and that was the whole world of beer beyond light and not light, particularly in markets where a robust local brewery scene had not yet taken root. I will give them credit for that. They are, they are a big beer. They are owned by Coors, but they're not Coors exactly. I mean, they do have a specific craft beer type vibe to them. I know a lot of people make fun of them because you stick an orange on there and that's supposed to be the thing, whatever.
Right.
But they do have a different feel and a different taste.
They were definitely, while they're not craft beer per se, I'm right there with this writer of this article if you weren't a fan of regular big beer, the lagers and pilsners,
right,
they kind of gave you a glimpse into what beer could be.
They are a little bit like a heavy wheat beer or something along those lines, which you can get from several craft breweries, like Franconia around here or something.
Sure.
I would say Franconia Wheat and Blue Moon are not the same, but they're kind of similar.
They're comparable in flavor palettes.
Right. Yeah, which is, I think that's worth noting.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I would say while they're not wholly responsible, I think they are somewhat responsible for the craft beer boom because it probably helped a new generation of drinkers who maybe would not have stuck with Coors or Budweiser as a result. They decided to give other types of beer a try because of Blue Moon.
Yeah, and if you like generic lagers, you're not going to like Blue Moon. It's not the same.
If that's all you like, sure.
So I do think they kind of take it a step beyond just for that fact.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they deserve that credit. The next one is Budweiser. I mean, they have definitely made their stamp on the United States from just being one of the biggest beer or brewers of all time to the fact that they have some of the most memorable commercials of all time.
Well, like you've talked about before, I think Budweiser deserves credit, if for nothing else, their ability to produce on that level. I mean, that's a feat within itself.
It's an absolutely it is.
Yeah. I don't like to give them a lot of credit because I hate them, but I also admit that that's my own personal bias.
Yeah.
And if I look at it objectively, that's very impressive to be able to make
scale
that much worldwide output. And anywhere you get a Budweiser around the globe, it's going to taste the same.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite an accomplishment.
It is an accomplishment, and they should be lauded for that. It doesn't mean we have to like their business practices and the way they treat craft brewers. Doesn't mean we have to like all the acquisitions, but they have their place in beer history.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not even sure beer would be as big as it is if it wasn't for Budweiser. I mean, what do you want to say about that? I mean, say whatever you want to say about that, but I think that's true.
Yeah. And we should note here that he says that the writer of this article says that the reason they're notable, I guess, and I think our reasons are probably more notable, but it was the first American beer to be pasteurized, which gave it a longer shelf life, as opposed to one of the options of the Coors Yellow Bellies. The reason people didn't like it was because it wasn't pasteurized, and hence our special Smoking the Bandit episode a long time ago, about that. So I guess that's an accomplishment of theirs. They can put on their. They can notch on their headboard, but I don't think that's their most significant reason of how they changed America.
Right, and to rotate back to me for the next one, which is Coors, the notable thing they mention here is the fact that they instituted a Cash for Cans program, which rewarded each can with a penny.
Well,
so
and
if you
they
turned it in, you got a penny.
And they were the first beer to use the aluminum can as opposed to tin.
Well, that too, but I'm just saying. I think Coors has had an impact beyond that.
I agree. I think they've had a culture impact. Now, I would say
Coors was kind of the crafty, specialized, brewery that you couldn't get on the East Coast.
We couldn't get it. Yeah, we couldn't get it in Texas for a long time. We couldn't
Texas
get the Yellow
was
Bells.
actually the East Coast boundary. Like you could get it here. But
no,
I live in New York.
I'm just saying. I remember even in last 10 years, it was hard to get even Yellow Bellies.
Well, maybe that. I mean, you can get some kind of
Coors Light you could get anywhere, but
I'm saying if you go back to the 60s, 70s, Coors was available here. But if you wanted to be in New York or anywhere on the East Coast, Coors was like a luxury, specialized craft lager at the time.
Hence the whole setup of the movie Smoking the Bandit.
Right, exactly,
smuggling Coors to the East Coast.
But my point is, I think they're way beyond just Cash for Cans.
Yeah, I mean,
as being their pointed.
I would say
the thing to point out about them.
I would say okay, they get a notch on their headboard for aluminum cans, but
sure. Yeah.
I don't know that Cash for Cans is really it's an accomplishment, but in the long list of accomplishments that Coors has had and how they change things. Now, I would argue that they have not had as big a cultural impact as Budweiser has had.
No, they haven't.
It's just the way it turned out, but they have definitely had a huge cultural impact nonetheless.
But, if you're going to pick the premier lagers from the U.S., it's going to be Coors and Budweiser.
Absolutely.
Both of those.
Yes.
So, yeah, they've definitely done well.
Yeah, and they've had, not as many memorable commercials, but you're definitely never going to not forget. You're not going to ever forget the people all over the world with the ice train going through the football stadium
right,
commercial.
Yeah, the Silver Bullet.
Were they the one that did the Twins? The Twins?
They did. They did that, and they did the Silver Bullet.
The Silver Bullets. They've had their market society.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt.
So
not a beer I go to, but yeah, no doubt.
In 1999... for my purposes, I think what this article is turning to, it's a little too narrow focused. If you want to talk about beers that changed the world,
America, not the world.
Sorry, America. And this article kind of goes back and forth between specific beers, as in this next one, and then breweries themselves. I feel like you need to either make beers or make breweries.
The one after you're talking about is also very specific. So
I would have called it maybe 21 Reasons How Beer Changed America, not 21 Beers. Anyways, the next one is Dogfish Head's Worldwide Stout, which I've never had. It was first brewed in 1999, and at 20%, it was named the strongest beer in the world at the time. Of course, now I think it's Brewdog is the one that keeps trying to top themselves, and I think the
who did
Tactical Nuclear was 31%, 32%, and then they had the one after that was came in some dead squirrels that was or armadillos or something that was like 40 or 50%, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you got to give Dogfish Head a lot of credits. I mean, on top of that, just for being one of the most dominating craft brewers of all time.
I was going to say, Dogfish has been a everlasting craft brewery. They are very experimental. They did their own show on Discovery. I mean, that says a lot because they have that kind of pull that they can do that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they've been very good. They've done... They're probably the most experimental, massive craft brewery in the country by far.
And early
I don't think
on.
it's even close.
And the one thing I think that, to Dogfish's credit, I mean, among many things, is, like you just kind of mentioned, is they're not afraid to try something. They have the financial backing that they can put out a beer that the white consumer base may not like it, but it may find its place with a certain crowd, and they're not afraid to try those weird things and see if they stick. At all. And I think that's inspired a lot of confidence in other brewers to realize that you may think something is weird, but it may find its audience.
Well, Dogfish will put, pieces of a surfboard. I mean, they don't care. They'll put anything in the beer. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And the show was actually good, too. Did you ever watch that?
I never got a chance to watch it. Because I don't think I had cable at the time when it was on, and it only ran one season, I think.
2, I think.
2?
But yeah, not a whole long time. The next one up is Goose Island Bourbon County Stout. They pretty much talk about the fact that they've been very influential, to quote you from the break room.
Yeah.
Very influential, yes. And I would say that's one that it's kind of got a funny relationship with craft people because everybody hates Goose Island because of the fact they got bought out. They're a major brewery now. Mm-hmm. You know, Goose Island IPA, the Honkers, the 312, everything has been, mass-produced. Nobody cares about that. But Goose Island, people still like the Bourbon County. People line up every year for that. Yeah. And it's just kind of funny to me that all these hardcore, everything's a drain pour, DFW group people, they still line up I don't know, 50, 200 deep, whatever it is.
Yeah,
and they go for it every what is it?
Around Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Is it Thanksgiving?
It's around Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's on Black Friday.
Black Friday, yes, that's what it is.
I mean, you're absolutely going to find everywhere in Dallas nut to butt lines with people trying to get their hands on, if not, maybe not the regular BCBS anymore, but definitely some of those, the rye and the vanilla and some of those, more rare ones. Even the BCBS, this last year didn't seem to be as much in demand as the regular one.
Yeah.
Just because it was a lot more widely available. But the couple of years before that, absolutely.
Yeah, it says why people that live in Chicago cut out early every post-Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So the day after Thanksgiving to wait in lines in sub-zero temperatures just to get some BCS.
Yeah.
Which, thankfully, at least it's not sub-zero temperatures here, but I think every year I've gone out and gotten a couple of them.
Yeah.
Black Friday, just to have them. And I probably will this year. I mean, that's just one of those that I actually go out and do.
We're going to be in the Dominican Republic.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You're going to go maybe to the Target of the Dominican to try to find it. The Total Wine of Dominican Republic.
I'll pay somebody to go out there and do that for me this year.
That's why they have TaskRabbit to do that.
Right. But I didn't realize they've been around since '92.
They've been around a long time.
Early. Yeah.
But yeah, I think as far as their achievements go, I think the BCBS is an achievement. But then again,
the variants especially.
How long has Founders been around?
Similar, late '80s.
Okay, and they've been doing the KBS for a long time.
Yeah, but BCS does variants that is different than. I mean,
well,
Founders,
that's true. I guess I'm just looking at
the same KBS every year.
I guess I'm just looking just at the bourbon barrel aging as far as their mark upon the beer world. It would seem to me that you would have to land it somewhere at the feet of bourbon barrel aging as far as where they made their mark.
Those two are probably the pinnacles. In the
and that's kind of where I would say is that I don't think they're, and that's why I don't know that you should only put it at the feet of Goose Island. I think Founders
I agree.
Deserves a word here alongside.
I'm just saying Founders doesn't have the variants, so it's not.
Yeah, true.
Not quite as diverse.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Absolutely. All right, the next one I'm not really familiar with because I don't know that I'm sure it's been on the shelves, but I don't know that I've ever had it because it's a lager. It's Henry Weinhard's Private Reserve lager, or the company specifically out of Portland. They said this article says it kicked off the whole beer Vana thing before pet names for cities were a thing.
Right.
I don't know. They said it made a big impact on the Northwest culture it didn't make an impact on me. Never has. I never wanted to reach for that beer.
We don't live in the Northwest.
We don't. We didn't. So we can't really speak to this because it didn't make an impact on us. So those of you,
1856 though, it's been around a while.
Yeah, I agree. Now, if you're in the Northwest, I'm sure it made an impact on you, and I will allow you to justify that to yourself. Or if you want to email us and tell us why, absolutely.
Yes. Next up is Lakefront Brewing Organic ESB. ESB is not a style I go for much. The fact that they are organic does give them a little bit of a little bit of credit.
Yeah, but there's not even that many organic beers now.
Well, 96 is early to get into that too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially in they're from Milwaukee, and then the land of the friendly people.
Good Life.
The Good Life. Sorry, the Good Life. That's right. Alice Cooper taught me that.
They also were trailblazers, making the first federally approved gluten-free beer. So they've done some innovative things, apparently.
Trailblazers in kind of the, I don't say homeopathic community, but the
sure,
kind of the alternative lifestyle, dietary lifestyle, I should say. And you wouldn't expect that out of the Midwest. The next one is Miller Lite, first brewed in 1974 by yourself and many other people. It is if there's nothing else available, they're going to reach for a Miller Lite.
I do. It's actually my favorite macro by far. It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, you always have a craft beer in one hand and a Miller Lite in the other at all times.
I could, yeah. The Miller Lite's not bad. It's actually a Pilsner. It's a little bit different, which is nice.
And I don't know why they ever went away from their traditional emblazoned can with the big word light and LITE in it, the white and blue can. I don't know why they ever went away from that because it was just so iconic. But then a couple years ago, they said, hey, we're idiots. Let's go back to the traditional can because it looks a lot better than our Gennaro 90s can. Do
you agree with what they say that by 2027, we'll have craft beer light will be a thing and it will be Miller Lite?
No, they say all because of Miller Lite.
Well, because of Miller Lite.
They say light beer by 2027. I think that's already happening. I think we're seeing the rise of session beers.
I think that's a little bit far out.
Yeah, I mean, this was back in 2015, probably before session started making a real big mark at the time. I think it seems like, I bet trends at the time were definitely IPAs and probably heavier ABV beers. So, but I think we're already seeing that people want lower ABV beers and to drink more of them. So,
sure. The next one, I don't even know how you say that. Narragansett? I don't know.
Narragansett?
Narragansett? Narragansett? I don't know.
Not going to be getting a paycheck anymore.
Yeah, but it's been around since 1890. They're basically corporate sponsors of the Red Sox and Boston Braves, which are now the Atlanta Braves, of course, which included telecast of this newfangled invention called television. Heyo. It's fit. What do they say here? Considered using televised sports to sell to people now represents approximately 57% of the U.S. economic activity. So I guess this was like the first beer that was actually sold to people that were watching sports.
I guess so.
And does that make it any good? I don't know. Maybe they're innovative from that front.
Again, this article's kind of all over the place, but it's not really focused. It's not saying it's a good beer. It's just saying it made its mark.
Right.
And
I mean, selling beer to sports fans, that's obviously a very important thing nowadays. I mean, Bud Light and others support big things like NFL and NBA and MLB. So, yeah, I mean, I guess if they're the first ones who decided to do that, they deserve some credit there, yeah.
Another one that guarantee we'd never had either from the Northeast, the National Bohemian, which was first brewed in 1885. Big fan, apparently. Natty Boh was a big favorite up in Baltimore. Home of the Wire, McNulty, Bunk. And apparently altered the beer landscape in 1943 when it became the first brewer to make six-packs available.
Oh, okay.
And apparently they are given the due for this innovation now. Who knows if, because we tore down all the statues, we don't really know about history anymore.
But you can't research it
without a six-pack statue, there's no way we could ever know these facts.
Right.
But they are given credit for the six-pack innovation.
I mean, that's a big innovation.
It is.
If they were really the first ones who did six-packs, I mean, that's everything comes with 6 or 4 now.
And they should also be given credit. If they were the ones that came up with the plastic rings, think of all the dolphins and the birds that they've killed over the years. The millions of birds.
That's innovative too, right?
That's absolutely. And the turtles they've crushed in their shells that have grown through six-pack rings.
Next up is Oscar Blues Dale's Pale Ale, which, they used to be a frequent one that I would go for. For some reason, lately, Pale Ale has just not been a thing that I go for as much. But, 2002, that's early on in the craft game. And,
yeah, but I would kind of challenge this. They said it wasn't the first craft beer to achieve availability in cans, but it was the first to do so and then become wildly popular.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale available in cans as early as like 1980s?
No,
I mean 1990s.
bottles.
It was only bottles.
Yeah. So they are the first canned pale ale to actually achieve massive success. So if that is true, which as far as I know it is, like you said, the only other one I could think of is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which was only bottles. Yeah, that's fairly significant, right?
It's an achievement for sure.
I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, probably Oscar Blues deserves notoriety for other things, but all right, we'll go with it.
For this list, I don't dispute that.
Yeah, Pabst Blue Ribbon.
He has not even had a drop of alcohol.
I'm not.
And that's how he talks.
Pabst Blue Ribbon gets a mark on this list. First brewed in 1844. And in this case, it's specifically because of hipsters, because they owe their resurgence to the hipsters because of the low price point, and it could help you work at a record store where they only sell 7-inch records, and you could still afford beer as opposed to craft beer. Now, I suppose there was an article we didn't talk about today in the news that was talking about how blaming millennials again, saying they are turning to cheaper beers.
Yeah,
macro beer, according to Drizzly, which is a alcohol delivery service that is probably not available everywhere. According to their numbers, millennials are responsible for a massive upswing in macro beers that they are turning. Now, industry numbers still say that macros are still falling, but according to Drizzly, millennials are turning in droves to macro beers, and PBR and Lone Star and people like that, or beers like that, are part of that. So I know PBR is the Miller Lite of many people that we know.
Oh, by far, yes.
Not a PBR fan by any stretch.
When's the last time you had it?
We went on that Florida fishing trip. It was like...
Well, that's been like a decade ago?
Almost a decade, yeah. That was the last time I had a PBR.
Okay, I was just curious.
And I was so hammered at the time.
I mean, it's a good beer if you're already hammered or if you want to shotgun something, but, it's just like Coors or Bud Light or whatever. It's something, but...
It's crushable.
It's maybe a little bit better than those, but maybe a little bit better than those.
Yeah.
Next up is Russian River Pliny the Younger, which is the very rare few weeks a year available beer from Russian River. Mm-hmm. We've had Pliny the Older. We did that on the show back when we used to review beer. And, it's Pliny the Younger. It's the triple hop version, which normally means it's a lot sweeter. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. You're more of a fan of triple or double hop beers, or does it depend on what you're in?
Doesn't really. For? As long as it's good. I don't really have a strong preference between the two.
Okay.
Depends on the mood. It really
you
depends.
Don't care if it's biting or if you care if it's
No, it just depends on the mood I'm in.
Okay.
But I can't say that I have a strong preference for either one.
So basically they say that Pliny the Younger is like a tourist driver to Santa Rosa and going around there and trying to find it during that small period of time. I guess my question is, does Russian River only have that brewing capacity for that, or are they trying to intentionally drive people to go there for that specific time?
Who knows? I have no idea. I'm guessing they have enough notoriety now that if they wanted to increase production, they could.
I don't expect you to tell me the answer. I'm just throwing that out there. So Pliny the Older, obviously you like it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Never had Pliny the Younger. Obviously,
what else have you had from them? Anything? Blind Pig?
No, I've only had Pliny the Older.
Blind Pig is also excellent.
Yeah.
Never had Younger, though. Never had that opportunity.
Well, it's only available for 2 weeks in Santa Rosa a year, so apparently their entire tourist trips set up just for that occasion. Maybe we should take that trip sometime.
We won't, but we should.
We should. We should consider it.
I agree. We should,
at B&B.
but we won't.
Sam Adams, another not beer, but a brewery itself. Sam Adams was the ubiquitous name for craft beer throughout the 90s, the 80s, the 90s.
Sam Adams is a deserved game changer.
Absolutely.
It definitely is.
If you didn't know about Anchor Steam, you're probably thinking about Sam Adams. I mean, that was really the first beer I can think of that I thought about outside of when I was thinking about drinking beer, which I was not a big fan of for a long time because of Budweiser and Coors. When I would think about something and get a beer, I would get a Sam Adams. Now, to me, it tasted a lot, just not a ton like Budweiser and Coors, but it was at least a decent alternative to those beers.
To me, Sam Adams Lager is garbage because I don't like lagers.
Yeah.
So I just automatically assume it's garbage. I don't assume I've had it, and I feel like it doesn't taste very good.
But at the time,
it is
for
better.
the time.
No, it's better than a Budweiser or Coors. But I was going to say, to counter that, though, Sam Adams has also come out with a lot of other beers. In the meantime, their Oktoberfest, their Rebel IPA, which is kind of generic. Several different things they've come out with. I've been like, this is not bad. Like, this is. I'm glad Sam Adams exists because they came out with some good alternatives to, generic crap that you get available or have available, and they have the force behind them to actually provide that on a wide scale, such as being on a cruise ship like we were a few years ago. Sam Adams Rebel IPA, probably one of the best things you can get on the cruise ship. Yeah, it's kind of nice that they've done that and expanded beyond the lager because, even their lager, I just can't embrace it. Yeah, I'm not even trying to be a hipster or a coolster. I just don't like lager taste. Yeah. So anything else they do, they've done a lot of stuff that's actually decent.
But they definitely made their mark with the original lager back in '84.
Of course, yeah. I mean that's their primary thing. But yeah, to me, it's just not something I can fully embrace.
And they too are suffering from old man syndrome.
They are.
Schlitz. Wait, I'm sorry. I guess this is your turn now.
No, go ahead.
Schlitz, first brewed in 1858. And apparently Schlitz, they made their mark in 1911 because they were the first beer to be distributed in brown bottles, which prevented beers from tasting like Heineken when it comes to the United States. Having that skunky quality, at least it staves it off for a long time because you don't get the light coming through on the green bottles.
Right. Which
I would say that's a big innovation. That's definitely, they deserve that.
That's part of why I hate Stella Artois. I mean, it's just...
Or Stella, yeah.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's totally awful.
Yeah, I don't understand the taste for Heineken or Stella or, Jester King's drive to put things in green bottles. I guess I just don't get it.
I don't either. Next up is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which it's pretty hard to argue that they're not totally innovative, shook up the market type beer because they came out all the way back in 1980, and they came out in brown bottles, and they were a quote-unquote hop-heavy pale ale. And compared to anything else on the market, there wasn't anything close, right? I mean, they even showed up in stuff like, I don't know how influential you think Friends is, but, you have like Ross sitting at a bar drinking Sierra Nevada Pale Ale or something like that. Yeah. They have him up in Joey and Chandler's apartment, that kind of stuff, and that's pretty innovative for the time.
Anchor, I think it was Liberty Ale. Anchor was a hop-forward pale ale also, but it didn't seem to get...
but they didn't get that. They didn't get that push.
It didn't get that maybe hipsters of the '90s recognition that right. that Sierra Nevada did. It got the cool kids branding to that. I don't know that Anchor ever got.
Very influential. I mean, you can't argue that.
Yeah, they're synonymous with beer. They're one of the most ubiquitous beers now.
Now are they really hop heavy?
The pale ale, no, not by today's standards.
Yeah, by today's standards, but for when they came out and when they were popular, especially in the 90s and early aughts,
Which we did the pale ale way back, didn't we?
I think we did. I think we did.
I'm pretty sure we did. Go back in the catalog, you'll find it.
I won't, but yeah.
Not you. I'm talking to you, the listener.
Fair enough.
You, the listener. Stone Arrogant Bastard. First brewed in 1997. They say here the original pale ale. It's weird phrasing. It makes it say like he's trying to say the original pale ale, but they're by far from the original pale ale by decades. But it was definitely Stone's first big achievement.
Stone Arrogant Bastard is the transition to craft beer. I would say that is like they could plant their flag on the moon. This is the one that said craft beer is here. Drink a Stone Arrogant Bastard, and you know what craft beer is. I mean, they did it, man. I mean, they're the ones who made craft beer a thing. Well, they did the most distribution. I know Sierra Nevada and some others came before them, but they're the ones that really kicked it up a notch. Well, people drank, and they're like, "Oh, this is great."
But they also came with something that I think BrewDog took and ran away with, and not that Stone has fallen behind, but they have in some degrees, because and that is personality. Because the bottles, the The demon that they have on the Arrogant Bastard bottle really stuck out on the shelves. They kind of had an attitude to, kind of a punk rock attitude to them.
Sure.
And I think BrewDog took that attitude and ran with it.
The devil on there.
Yeah.
And,
and
BrewDog
has like all these stunts that they pull now. And
they took it up a notch from like Sierra Nevada.
Yeah.
Sierra Nevada was kind of like a plain green label.
Yeah.
Here's a pale ale. It's a little different. Whatever.
Stone was kind of in your
Stone
face.
was like, right in your face. Drink this stuff, and you'll really like it. Yeah. I think Stone Arrogant Bastard's like. If it wasn't for Stone Arrogant Bastard, we wouldn't have this podcast. That's kind of the way I think about it.
That's probably true.
I think they're that pivotal.
Absolutely. The next one, Three Floyds Dark Lord. We have no access to Three Floyds here.
We have no access
currently.
Yes.
The Dark Lord is arguably their most famous beer, and this I would say he probably should have lumped this in with Pliny, and that has its own little holiday that inspires people to take trips there. It's Dark Lord Day. I would say he probably should have written these side by side, but limited quantities, a lot of demand for it, but also very, very limited access to that beer. So
I wish I could speak more to it.
I wish I could too, and I hope someday we can speak to it.
Up next is Widmer Hefeweizen, which Widmer was it's one of those breweries that's been absorbed by one of the macros, and it's an Oregon-based beer or brewery, and they have a lot of good beers, which I kind of actually like the fact they've been absorbed because we get a lot more stuff around here.
Yeah.
And I think it's very good. I don't know about the Hefeweizen specifically. They say it's been around since 1986, and it's a leader to become one of the biggest craft breweries in the country and inspire breweries across the states to adopt the same kind of brewing style. I don't know.
I don't like because they seem to, the way this article is written too, and another point I disagree on, is they seem to act like these guys were these big innovators behind Hefeweizens, but Hefeweizens have been around since like 17th century Bavaria. So
right, but I think they're one of the bigger.
Oh yeah, they can be one of the bigger ones, but to credit them with like opacity was not a thing before Widmer came along is absolutely wrong. Mm-hmm. And to say that Hefeweizens were not a thing until Widmer came along, I mean, maybe they weren't as popular. Maybe that may very well be true, but to say that they're style innovators, I don't know about that. I think maybe they made a really damn fine beer and they got the reach out of it. Yeah, but
they probably had the reach, especially when they came out.
Yes,
and that was they
made the style more famous within the United States. But just to say it comes across as like they were the inventors of the style, and they're not the inventors of the style.
No, they're not. No,
they just. I don't know. They just made the style more famous, and they made a good beer.
I get it, yeah. But Widmer, they're still a very good brewery. I hope they keep their stuff together. But yeah, I agree. Like they're not like they're
big beer now too.
They are now. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't know who bought them, but somebody did. But yeah, they're out of Oregon and around the Willamette Valley, somewhere around there. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's also fortunate because you can get it more places.
Yeah, true.
It's the whole thing that goes with buyouts.
So lastly, Yuengling Lager was founded in it was first brewed in 1829, survived the Civil War, survived Prohibition, and is the oldest brewery in America. And 5 generations later, it's still being brewed by the same family.
A lot of people that like lagers, and I know you don't associate with those people, but I run in the sewers with those folks, and they tell me... Is that
what you call middle class people? Is the
the people like Yuengling, you classify them as below you.
This comes from the guy who hates lagers.
But we're hanging out in the sewers together, and I'm like, what do you like about Yuengling? They're like, man, it's great. It's one of the best lagers ever, and people that actually travel. We're in Dallas, so you don't get it here.
Yeah, true.
But if they go up in the Northeast, which, by the way, I have a few if you want one. But yeah, if you go up in the Northeast, you can get one, and it's supposed to be different, and everybody loves it. And it's one of those most notable lagers that has ever been produced.
Yes, and they survived a lot. The Civil War, Prohibition. They survived the big, just like Anchor. They survived the Great Consolidation.
Mark telling them they sucked.
I did. I went right to Mr. Yuengling's face and punched him. And he actually, I think they came under fire recently for their support of Trump.
No, really,
and very vocal support of Trump. So they're getting some blowback in the craft community because of that. Just I can't imagine why.
No, yeah.
I mean,
I know you love Trump. So
I know he's the best ever. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed 21 beers and or breweries that changed America. Would you say America has been changed for the better?
Yeah. More beer, the better, right?
I don't know about more beer, but better beer. More better beer, the better.
Well, more good beer.
More good beer, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for listening to episode 112 of Brew Bloods. If you like the show, you might enjoy us on another show called The Break Room, which we put out ever so occasionally.
Wow.
You can find that at breakroom.tv. Thanks for listening to the show. If you have any friends that enjoy craft beer and podcasts and listening to things, please tell them about our show. We'd really, really appreciate it.
Thanks to Johnny B for listening.
Absolutely. Always thanks to Johnny B. Check us on all the social networks, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you have any stories, things you'd like us to talk about, we'd absolutely appreciate any feedback. You can always email us at brewbloodshow@gmail.com. You can also tell us what we got wrong, because I'm sure we got plenty wrong. If you have any opinions on the styles we talked about today, please, you can call it in to 469-573-BEER. That's 469-573-2337. Or you can email us again at brewbloodshow@gmail.com. All right, for Dustin, I'm Mark.
Mark, I'm Dustin. Probst.